Hello, I'm Bonnie McDonald Dixon, and I'm with the Happy Healthy Camper.life. And we have an amazing guest today. Today, my guest is Kathy Powell. She is a mentor and a friend. I called Kathy in 2006 when my office was in quite a disarray, and she kindly told me she wasn't taking clients, but we discussed it for a bit, and she decided to take me on. And with an amazing few minutes, she had my office totally getting more organized, and I felt so much more at peace. And Kathy and I have done some business together. She considers herself a life architect, but not only that, Kathy is a singer, an author, a wife, a mother, and now a grandmother. Her business is powerfully organized. One of her famous clients is Jack Canfield, and she has clients though from all over the globe. And what I like about Kathy is she helps you identify the why of your life and the how, and she helps you create systems and structures to support your why. And today, Kathy and I were chatting, and we realized with the COVID-19 virus that we have something to share and give to you, a gift, in other words. So today, many of you are told to stay home and self-isolate. And so one of the things we'd like to do, and Kathy's going to expand on this, is a gift of time. So with that, Kathy, thank you so much for joining us today. And we look forward to hearing why this time of life in March 22, 2020, that this time that we all have of self-isolating and staying home is a gift.
Thank you, Bonnie, for having me as your guest. This is something that's really different for all of us. We're used to being able to get in our cars or go out and walk and do whatever we want, whenever we want. We, living in North America, we've had the freedom to do that. And we're being asked to limit our freedom for a while for the good of the whole. And even if we're well, it's a good idea for us to stay to ourselves right now, physically. That doesn't mean that we can't connect as we are right now or by phone, but it is a different time. And so I've been thinking, what is the gift in this? Because I believe that everything that happens to us, there's a gift. And I believe that we have the gift of time to do things that we normally wouldn't do. And one of those is decluttering and getting organized. So many people have that way down low on their to-do list, when I have the time. Well, guess what? We all have lots of time at home right now. Mm-hmm. And so that is an opportunity that we have. I also think this is an important time for us to really connect with the people that we care about. And if we're living under the same roof with that person, we can connect in person. If we're not, we can do Zoom calls, Skype calls, phone calls. We can send cards, we can send emails and texts, and there are all kinds of ways that we can reach out and support each other. Mm-hmm. And I believe that this is a gift of a reset for all of us. We've been so busy with the hustle and bustle of life that oftentimes those we love the most have been put way down low on the list. Mm-hmm. Here's our opportunity to change that. So those are a couple of gifts that I've thought of.
Mm-hmm. When a person first has to stay home, I was thinking do my taxes. So I started sorting my papers as they were in a little bit of a kerfuffle. But there's papers, there's drawers. One of my friends doing drawers. Is there a method to the madness of starting to organize? Where would a person even start if they're sitting there looking at their house going, where do I start?
I think the best place to start is the place that would be most impactful to you. So I'm just going to use an office as an example. If you have a home office, typically there are piles of paper. And the piles of paper, you might have multiple piles of paper, and some of those piles are older than others. Typically, the most recent piles created have the most important stuff. Not always, but identify a room or an area, and then identify a specific part of that room or area that would give you the most bang for the buck. You know, that if you were to organize that first, what might that do for your peace of mind? We need to do everything we can right now to bring peace into our lives, because there's a lot out there that is not making us feel very peaceful and safe. So what can we do that will increase peace in our lives, that will increase the feeling of safety and security, or having some sense of control? We don't have much control over what's going on, but we do have control with some things with our environment. So start with that. Or if it's your kitchen, you know, what is the area of your kitchen that you use the most? Start with that and move out to the other areas that are not quite as important. I have a number of tip sheets on my website at orgcoach.net. That's like organization, orgcoach.net. Under the resources tab, I have a tips and tools section. There are quite a few resources in there. They're all free. And I will also be writing a blog soon, and I'll include those links in that. And I'll get that blog link over to Bonnie when I have that finished. But I think that there are some questions you can ask yourself, and one of my documents is clarifying questions to ask yourself when you're going through something. So I'm going to use an example here.
Okay.
My father-in-law died a month ago. He was 98, and he has a 3,400 square foot home that we have now inherited. And that 3,400 square foot home has a lot of stuff in it. It's 4 minutes from our house, and so I've been going daily, and I'm starting to clear things out. And it's a lot easier to clear someone else's things out than to clear out your own. But that being said, he was my dad for 39 years. My dad died 6 months before my husband and I got married. So he became my dad for 39 years. And there's a lot of emotional attachment to some of the things that I'm finding. Not as much as it would be for my husband, but still emotional attachment. But you have to ask yourself some questions and try to be as objective as possible. And so I'm going to just give you some of the questions. I might not remember them all, but I've got them on the document. The first question is, what is the worst thing that could happen if I threw this away or I gave this away? And I like to give away anything that someone else can use rather than filling our landfills. And if you can't come up with anything that, you know, the worst thing, maybe it's time to let go of it. By the time I might need this, will it be obsolete? If I got rid of this now and discovered that I needed it later, could I fairly easily replace it? And then my favorite question, how will it enhance my life to keep this? Not will it, but how will it enhance my life to keep this? If you can't identify any way that it will enhance your life to keep it, then maybe it's time to let go of it. And maybe you have one of the things, I had a flood in my kitchen last June, and I had to take everything out of the main floor of our home, put it in a storage unit in our driveway, and then move back in after we took things down to the studs. And I was amazed, even as organized as I am. I had cabinets in the bottom, and things go to the back of the cabinet and you never see them. So I had duplicates of things. And once I was able to categorize things and put them all together and see how many of something I had, especially like Tupperware type things. I had so much of that. And I just thought, how will it enhance my life to keep all of this? So I was able to let go of a great deal of that. I gave it to charity unless it was in such bad shape that it couldn't be used by someone else. Got a huge tax deduction for that. By the way, as you're going through things, there is a wonderful program put out by Intuit, the makers of TurboTax. It's called It's Deductible. Now, I don't know if this works in Canada as it does in the US, but I know I've used it in the US. I'm in the Seattle area. I've used it for probably 20 years. And it values things that you donate to charity. And it keeps track of it all year long. So every day I'm going over to my father-in-law's house. I'm putting things in boxes and I'm writing them down. I'm coming back home and I'm entering them into It's Deductible. It values them. I've already got $12,000 worth of things. And I started doing this a couple weeks ago at his house. And that saved us several $1,000s in taxes. So if you are even thinking about having a garage sale to get rid of a bunch of things you no longer need, I encourage you to rethink that as well. Because oftentimes you can get more value out of donating it than you can selling it. Plus, you have all of your time wrapped up in that. So I know I've gone off on a couple different things here, but they're all sort of related.
They are. Those are related. I appreciate that because I have a locker. We live full time in our RV, and we have one locker. And I realized that is one of the places I want to go through. I did one pass through, and I saw some things, and I thought, back to your questions, how is this going to, help me? How is this going to be valuable to me? How will this enhance my life? And some of the things I realized, a locker costs money. And in 5 years, I would have spent X amount of money. Could I have bought everything in there? Mainly. There's pictures, which are the one things that you can't replace, but I can scan them in.
Right,
so,
you can digitize them.
Yes, so the things cost us money just to keep them, whether we know it or not. But to be able to allow someone else to use it and get a tax write-off is like a double benefit, a double gift right there. So that's a very valuable thing to share, because I think as time goes on, a lot of us are going to be reassessing our stuff, our things, and how do we deal with it and the emotion of it. Kathy, here's a question for you. My mother was a hoarder herself, and she would get very emotional about, one time I even took newspapers and cans, and she cried as I took it out of her garage. Yes. Quite a bit. What's a tip for people to deal with the emotion that comes up and they don't know what to do with their emotions?
Well, that's a loaded question. First of all, if you are a hoarder, there may be some deeply seated underlying issues that go far beyond what I'm qualified to do as a certified coach. And some people benefit from working with a therapist. There are many older people who have lived through the Depression, and we may be going into another one of those now. But many people who have lived through the Depression developed a mindset that you must keep everything that you could possibly use. Every piece of aluminum foil, you wipe it down and you fold it up and you save it. Every butter tub, you save it because it can be a container for something that you need to keep in the future. I've seen it, and I understand the thought behind it. When it gets to a certain point, there's no way that you could ever use all of the aluminum foil and the butter tubs, and it goes on and on and on. The newspapers and it's the mentality is I might need this someday. And these are educated people that have money. They could go out and buy anything they needed, and yet they still have that belief. And it's so deep-seated for some that they really need professional help to unravel that.
Mm-hmm.
For some, I've watched a show called Hoarders, and oftentimes the hoarder has had a loss in his or her life,
Mm-hmm.
a death or a divorce or something that was created so much psychic pain that they replaced it with going shopping. Or they replaced it, buying things gave them a short jolt of joy.
I think I'm talking about maybe the average person. I have a teapot, and it actually came from my father, gave it to my mother, and then I have it now. And because we're in this motorhome, don't have a place for it, but I have it in my locker. It brings me joy to look at it and touch it and think about it, but it actually, someone else might be able to use it in their home.
So what if you were to take a picture of that teapot and then allow it to find a new home where it can be put to use?
Yes. I did do that with all the ornaments that my mother had, Christmas ornaments. I thought, and they were old, and a lot of them weren't very pretty, but they brought joy to my heart. So I did do that with all of those ornaments. All my siblings, we decided to release them that way. So that's a great idea.
One of my favorite possessions is a digital photo. I don't know what you call it. It's a framed digital photo player, and you stick your photos on a thumb drive kind of thing, and you plug that into the digital player, and it just plays the photos, and you can set it for 15 seconds per photo or however long you want. You can set it to when the photo was taken or random, or that you have a lot of options in the setup, but it is so much fun to see these photos. And they're photos that, if we digitize them and just left them on our computer, we might not never see them again. But that's photos true. That bring us joy, we see those every day now because we have that in our home, and it's motion activated. So when we walk in the room, it comes on.
That's a great idea.
Playing
That's
the
a great idea.
And
that's a gift right there.
Yeah, so let go of the actual thing that you don't have. It's not going to enhance your life to keep it from the standpoint that you won't be using it. The way that it would enhance your life is to remember it. So remember it in a photo, and then find a way so that those photos are incorporated into your life. And I love these digital players. They're great.
I also sometimes change my screensaver to a photo. I have it at the Christmas ornaments. I put that up at Christmas time that were from my childhood. That was great fun. So in saying all this, Kathy, again, the time that we have, not only organizing, but I know you're a singer. So what do you think about someone learning something at this time as a time?
It's a great idea. This is an opportunity to do things that you normally wouldn't have the time to do. That could be reading. It could be taking an online course. It could be self-teaching some things. There's so much knowledge available through the internet. And so I think this is a great opportunity to do something different. It's a gift. We have a gift. And we can squander that gift, or we can use the time wisely to enhance our lives, whatever that means to you. If that means organizing your space, if it means learning something new, if it means spending time with people that you haven't spent as much time with, reaching out to people in different ways, it's a gift. And so I invite you to think about what will enhance your life. And also, this is a time to think about others and how you can serve others. I think this is a time in our history that is hitting a reset button that we've needed to reset for a long time. And this is bringing us back to what matters most.
I believe that to be true as well, Kathy. And I so appreciate you taking this time to share with us some some simple things that we can do and the why it will help us in the long run, and to not squander this gift, because we don't know if it's going to be 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years. But we do know life has changed as we know it.
Mm-hmm.
But we actually were offered this gift of time right now, where our collective around the world is saying, stay home, look within, stay safe physically and mentally and emotionally. This is where actually planning out what you might do, I guess, of
Mm-hmm.
the things, I guess the discipline, that's part of another question I was going to, the discipline of going, maybe you're going to do 2 hours of clutter clearing and 2 hours of learning something new and 2 hours of taking a nap. And how do you go about that? Do you write it down on a schedule, or what would you suggest or encourage people to do?
Well, I have a webinar that's recorded on my website, and it's called Managing Priorities.
Okay.
And in that webinar, I teach a weekly planning process, and I encourage you to always do weekly planning, whether we're in a crisis or a time at home or we're out and about. It doesn't matter. It's about taking the 168 hours a week that we were all gifted, and we're gifted that a little bit differently right now, but we're all gifted with time. And it's the only thing that you can't bank. You can put money in the bank and get interest. You can't do that with time. Once the time is spent, it's gone. But you can plan your time, and the Managing Priorities webinar will teach you a process for identifying your priorities and then actually planning them. Because if you have a to-do list, I call that a do-do list. You do this, you do that. That's not the same as a plan. A plan is putting something in your calendar. And I'm going to use exercise as an example. For a long time, I said exercise was important to me, and yet I wasn't doing it. Now I have a plan for when I'm going to exercise, and it gets done. So it's part of what I teach in the Managing Priorities webinar, some Stephen Covey materials, his time management matrix, and a 6-step weekly planning process. The time management matrix, he calls it quadrant 2 activities. That's the quadrant of quality and personal leadership. And that's the quadrant of time that is not urgent. There's no deadline by which you must exercise, for example, and important. And quadrant 2 activities, you have to be proactive. Organizing your home is a quadrant 2 activity. There's no deadline unless if you're moving or you're putting your house up for sale. There might be a bit of a time sensitivity, but for most of us, there's no time by which we must organize. And it's not something that it's a favorite thing to do. So if you can begin with the end in mind and say, how is it going to be when I have this? And then identify some blocks of time, beginning and ending blocks of time. So you're not just saying, I'm going to do this all day.
Right.
You say, I'm going to spend, if it's daily, if it's every other day, whatever you decide. And this is the block of time that I'm going to focus on that. And when I'm done, I'm going to reward myself by doing something that I really look forward to. And over time, if you do that consistently, I tell some of my clients, they say, I want to go through all my file cabinets. So how many file drawers do you have? I have 4 file drawers. And how many feet or centimeters or whatever, however you measure, of paper do you have in that? And on average, how much I use feet. So how much time per foot of paper do you think you'll need? And you just kind of average it out. And some files are going to take longer and some files are going to take shorter. But you get an average of this is how long it's going to take to get through this many feet of paper, and decide what to do. Keep, toss, give to someone else, shred, do something with it. I have another webinar called Buried in Paper, and that teaches you how to go through the process of deciding what to do with paper, and you can use it for other things too. And then there's a third webinar on my website called Find Anything in 5 Seconds or Less. And I teach a system that I've used since 1996. I call it a finding system. It's not just a filing system. That I can find anything I file or store in just a few seconds. And so can my husband, even though I'm the one that put it away. So if those are things that are of interest to you, those resources are available on my website. If you want some coaching to go along with that, I have availability to assist you with that, and we can talk about that. So
share your website again, Kathy.
It's orgcoach.net, O-R-G, like organization, coach, C-O-A-C-H.net. And when you get there, you'll see a resources section, and that's where the webinars are, that's where the tips and tools are, that's where my blogs are. Lots of resources there.
And I can vouch for that. Kathy has given wonderful webinars, and these are truly valuable to go through just to learn and share them with other people, because if we're more organized and we feel better we'll feel better about ourselves. I know I do. And sometimes I just have to play some great music and say, this is what I have to do. And I do always feel better. So you, Kathy, are giving us the gift of the how to do it and the resources to go over and over again and check through it. And I've also had it where I had a friend just come sit with me while I did it. I had 2 boxes that just really annoyed me. And she just sat there. And we were chatting and talking, and I was going through it, and it was, I kid you not, 30 minutes, and they were done. But they had looked at me, and I had looked at these boxes for years.
Yep.
And so the information you just gave us and the resources and tools that you just gave us are very, very valuable and a true gift from your heart, Kathy. And if you'd like to hear Kathy sing, if you go to her website, is it the same website, Kathy, that you can hear you sing? She has a beautiful song there. She has a lovely voice. And I encourage all of us to take this gift of time and make it one of the best times of our lives. It is not punishment. It was actually probably, God may have designed this for everyone to go collect a breath, release, reset, and at the end of the day, we will feel better. And I thank you so much, Kathy. Do you have any last parting words or anything you'd like to share with us and about our conversation today?
Just breathe in, take in the moment, and appreciate that you do have time to do some things differently. It really is a gift, and you can turn around this awful negativity that we're bombarded with is, oh, isn't it awful we have to stay home? Well, it could be, but it's also a gift.
I agree with you totally. I thank you so much, Kathy, for your time today. You are a blessing. You are a blessing to everyone that touches you and you touch them. Thank you so much. HappyHealthyCamper.life.
Take care.
Namaste. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.